Hello, everyone. I've got special guest Chris Hines with me today. Hello, Chris.
Hello, how's it going?
I'm right. I'm excited, actually, because we're going to be going through the album Everyone's a Murderer by To The Grave, who are a fabulous deathcore band. This is going to be a biased review, to be honest with you, because we both love the band, so bear that in mind. And an important disclaimer for anyone who doesn't know the genre deathcore. It is a bit heavy. It could be quite scary if you haven't delved into it before. And it's very important to note because people get especially sensitive when people like vegans say specific things. That deathcore is combine violent ideation with a really terrifying riff, and you've probably got something that smells a bit like deathcore. Would you say that's a good?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. Yeah, you just basically just don't take the lyrics too literally. I think is the way to do it. It's a part of the genre.
Yeah, it's a part of the genre, and you can look at deathcore itself. Just go to deathcore bands, look at the lyrics. It is shocking. It's horrifying, but it acts as catharsis. And we're going to delve into this more. But this is a album that is very much for the animals first and foremost. But I get the impression it's kind of vegan catharsis. For those who are quite sick of trying to engage in the discourse. And you really get that vibe. I don't know if you did, Chris. But...
Yeah, no, 100% agree with that, yeah.
Yes. And deathcore primarily, I as a deathcore enjoyer, I find a lot of catharsis from the music and the lyrics. It's not something you want to act on. It's just a space to just... It's like a rage room. In musical equivalent.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and I totally agree with what you're saying. This album kind of, obviously we haven't dived in yet, but it kind of spoke to me on quite a deep level in a way. It kind of almost spoke to my inner frustrations that we can have as activists in a very extreme way, yes. as you'll see. But then I think anyone who's ever had frustration at something that you can't change, an injustice, will have probably felt that kind of thing in your belly that you just want everything to be sorted, and no matter do it by whatever means possible. Obviously you're not going to act on that, but it kind of speaks to those kind of deep feelings that we have of just being like, we just want this over with.
Yeah. And Chris Hines is the perfect person for this because he is the vegan music man, essentially. Like, not even essentially. You are the vegan music man. But as people will know, music is used for activism across the board. And this is just a segment of it. In this genre, there are other themes that are used that try to convey a message, obviously in a very violent and graphic way. But yeah, you're no stranger to activism in music.
Yeah, exactly. Like, music is such a powerful tool to invoke emotion, invoke people to introduce people to subjects and everything as well, which is obviously the subject of my film and all my research that I've been doing. And I believe that To The Grave actually could be onto something quite exciting, but I guess we'll kind of dive into that as we go through.
Absolutely. And I was introduced to The Grave by Chris. You introduced me to the song Found Footage. And this is where we get the concept or the idea that they aren't ones to use euphemisms, really. They're not ones to have hidden messages in their songs. It's very blatantly, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the animals, we're talking about veganism, and we see this throughout the music, and we see that in the album cover as well. Chris, do you want to kind of delve through what we see on the album cover?
So the album cover is, how can we probably put this? It's just kind of a pile of dead animals and human kind of almost zombies just kind of diving in, pulling out their insides and everything, and kind of just showing that kind of savageness, really, that kind of savage kind of caveman nature within us of just kind of going in and ripping apart animals. Yeah, and obviously called Everyone a Murderer, which is a kind of blunt statement, which is kind of true.
I got the vibe of this zombification, like people can't help themselves almost. They're engaging in this behavior that's like they cannot help themselves to do. It's these children and these adults that are just consuming the corpses and intestines of animals, and it's very deathcore-esque. It's like they've got a picture of veganism in their head of why you go vegan, and then they've put it into the deathcore realm, and then that's what's come out. So yeah, you see that immediately. And the way that the album opens is just, now let me reiterate again, this is deathcore. It's not, you shouldn't be worried about vegan terrorism or anything like that, but it's an invitation for people to essentially set themselves on fire. And it immediately references the album title, that Everyone's a Murderer, and they use esoteric language. They use carnist. I won't say the word that follows because I'll just have to censor it. And yeah, they implement things like the circle of life argument. They're basically like, oh, go on, set yourself on fire. It's the circle of life. People would say, it's the circle of life for animals to be sent to slaughterhouses. Which is a very odd thing to say because that's not the circle of life. So it's kind of like this irony, switching heads sort of statement. And I really appreciate that right off the bat, they're very clear on what they're talking about and who they're addressing it to. What do you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, the album as a whole is, I don't know whether they intended it to. It seems like it was. It's kind of a concept album. Ultimately, it's just this story of frustration, a world that just doesn't care about what's going on to animals, and that's just a consistent theme through like every single track. And yeah, this track, obviously, track 1, "Set Yourself on Fire in Public," is like that call to kind of say, if you don't care, just set yourself on fire, kind of thing. The line, "Everyone's a murderer, about time you admit it." It's just so full of frustration, and the energy of the track just from the get-go. You get this very kind of like quiet intro, and then it just goes into just the most brutal thing, like straight off the bat. There's no messing around. I really need to give a shout out to Matt, the bass player, Matt Clark, who produced this album. Obviously, they've self-produced it, and oh my god, it absolutely killed it. It's just insane from right from the very start. And what I actually liked about it, I'm talking not just from a theme wise, but just from the evolution of the band as well. I don't know if you agree, where some of their previous stuff seemed like a kind of wall of very like intense sound. This really seems to kind of release that intensity, that wall as such, but kind of upped the kind of heaviness with the riffs and the groove and everything. It's opened more space, but actually made it heavier in a way, I think, which is amazing. And obviously, Dane's vocals are just insane. I'm going to say it right out of the bat. Dane is one of the best deathcore vocalists around at the moment. Like, he is just killing it. And I'm not just saying this because I know the guys. Like, his vocals are just insane. Like, giving Lorna Shore a run for their money. I'm just saying it. I'm just putting that out there. The guy's an absolute beast. But yeah, like we said, that track kind of was talking about that kind of frustration at a world that didn't care, and the next track kind of follows along with that as well, DXE or Die, which I think, as much as it's kind of referencing, people are instantly going to think about DXE, the organization. I think the track almost seems like it's more about the statement than the actual organization itself. It's just like, we need direct action everywhere, like immediately. And some of the lyrics, like, regurgitate excuses, shut the fuck up, fucking embarrassing, don't talk to demons, I gave up on discourse with dickheads, killers won't stop killing till you kill them. Like, that's pretty intense lyrics, but you can see that this is like, I have heard every excuse in the book and I am done, and what can we do? And this is so reminiscent to me of bands back at the beginning of the 90s, like Vegan Reich and Earth Crisis, who took the kind of anarcho-punk, which was all kind of talking about animal rights and stuff like that, and they were calling for direct action, but Vegan Reich and Earth Crisis was starting to talk about revenge on these people. It wasn't just about kind of liberation of the animals and burning down the factories and the buildings that harm them. It was actually about kind of, if you harm animals, we want to take retribution on you. And that was seen as a very controversial kind of subject back then. And it seems like To the Grave are a kind of almost the revival of this. And it seems like they are that next evolution in the kind of punk animal rights lineage almost. We've gone from like the anarcho-punk to hardline to vegan straight edge, and now they've grasped onto this subject in such a big way that I'm very excited to see where it goes, because the band they're doing really well. They're getting on these good tours, the fan base is growing and stuff. What they're talking about doesn't seem to be alienating people. Because of the genre they're within. People expect gore, they expect kind of talk of violence and all this kind of stuff. So people kind of naturally kind of expect that. And I think if we see them grow, we could maybe see that next kind of Earth Crisis movement of people kind of listening to people like To the Grave and other kind of vegan deathcore bands, and starting to kind of take their cause seriously and get into direct action because of this, because you do listen to this and you want to take action. You don't want to do the actions they say.
No, but you put some fire in the belly. And I must say, like, we're both going to the Grave gig, and I am more excited for this gig than I have been for any gig ever, because it puts a fire in my belly. It really, it does. And it's just so amazing. You were talking about how they've produced it themselves. And I've got to say, it's honestly amazing, and it filled me with excitement, because it's so amazing to see someone conveying a message that I care about so deeply, and it's done so cleanly, so crisply. And you're right, when this stuff is clean and crisp, it is heavier. It sounds nastier. You get these kind of elements flowing through the sound that you would have otherwise missed, and it's honestly beautiful. If anyone doesn't know deathcore, it can be quite hard to listen to the lyrics, or kind of you grow an ear for it eventually. But I've been listening to this genre for quite some time, and I miss some of the lyrics, so I look them up, and I think this is an amazing form of activism, because people are looking this up like, oh, I wonder what they're saying. This is they're a really good band, and they're probably like, wow, they hate me. Like, and this DXE or die, they reference themselves. They say this is To the Grave, and I really like that statement, because it's like it matches the song, the title of the song, with who they are. They're making it very clear, this is who we are. We are militantly, as it would be called, because they call themselves militant throughout the album. They are unapologetically vegan, and they want animal liberation. This is clearly what they want, and this is who they are. And as Chris said, this follows a kind of story. It's like a concept album, as Chris said, and it's like they're so tired of engaging in this discourse, and then this kind of violent ideation that we talk about in deathcore, of what they now plan to do, or wish to do rather, if they could have their way. And this is what the album is, and it goes on to A Body for a Body.
Well, we should probably point out one little bit before we hop on to the next track. Right at the very end of the track as well, we actually have a quote from Gary Yourofsky.
Yes, true.
Basically saying, what do we call people who torture animals and eat animals? Which I believe, I could be wrong, but I think it's in reference, I think that was taken from an interview he did on Israeli TV, where they were kind of referring to him as maybe kind of being a terrorist in some way, kind of thing. And I guess that's the question that To the Grave are saying here. It's just like, well, people call us terrorists. Well, but what are you? If you're the one killing and all that stuff, so why are we any more terrorists than what people are doing to the animals as such? And obviously it shows to their kind of vegan animal rights credentials as well, that they would include a Gary Yourofsky quote at the end of something like this. It's not the kind of thing you'd normally expect to pop up on an album. So
yeah, and it's actually interesting that you bring that up, because it's like they start really holding up the mirror And then when we see a body for a body, they talk about being militant till their dying breath, enemies, like you are an enemy. You are an enemy to what our message is, and you are an enemy to the animals, because they say liberation or die. And
Yeah. I do want to also give some credit here. Like, you can tell as well by track 3 the kind of different feel to the album compared to the last one, and I kind of want to give a shout out to. Unfortunately, I should have looked up his name. I know they've got a new guitarist in, and I think he's really brought that kind of new element in. It feels like maybe it is him, because there's very much like a kind of two-step hardcore kind of feel at the beginning of this track, which I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is kind of, yeah, I'm feeling this. So yeah, it's really kind of good to see it kind of as an evolution of their sound as well. This is going on, but yeah, you're very much right about what you're saying there. I mean, the lyrics kind of sum it up perfectly. It says, it's not murder when they deserve it. They knew what they were doing. They never gave a fuck. They won't stop abusing. So go out and kill. It's your moral duty. I mean, I'm not going to say it's your moral duty to go out and kill people. No. But, you know, okay, we're going to have to give so many disclaimers in this review.
Yes, again, deathcore. It's deathcore.
But like, yeah, you know, it really just kind of shows that, you know, kind of like frustration and just wanting to kind of, you know, get kind of a revenge for the animals. I mean, the title of the next track kind of sums that up perfectly,
and it's my favorite one, I must say. This I've every day actually since you let me know that they'd released a new album, I have been listening, and I must say, I think Burn Your Local Butcher is not a statement. I'm not making a statement. That is the title of the song. Burn Your Local Butcher is definitely like up there, because it has 2 breakdowns. That's an important thing to say. Like, and they are sickening. They are beautiful. Like, this is the thing about the breakdowns that needs to be mentioned, because a good deathcore song has a tasty breakdown, and you are given 2 in this song, and I think that's why maybe I like it so much, and I like that it's so unapologetic. If you hadn't, like, the track that comes after makes it very clear if you haven't got the picture, but this one is doing numbers to be like, by the way, this is a vegan album. This is for the animals. And yeah, it's reining in the unapologeticness of the message. And we are seeing especially here, what, you know, they began with, we are sick of the discourse, and we're going through in detail the things that we want to do to the enemy. And so this is kind of way seeing it. It's like, firstly, going for the places that are harboring these bodies and are responsible and part of the pipeline of, you know, the animal exploitation. And they do reference the following song by saying Vegan Day of Violence. So they're tying together the songs, which I really do appreciate.
There's another, I don't know if it was intentional or not. I really hope it was, because it would be a really good callback to something. But the actual opening lines, so firestorm through your front door, firestorm through the front doors of the factory. Now, firestorm is the most well-known song by Earth Crisis. But it's not about animals. So Earth Crisis were straight edge and very much promoted straight edge alongside animal liberation. But the song was basically a rally call to kill drug dealers. It was like, everyone needs to take to the streets and basically, you know, eliminate every single drug dealer, kind of like almost like this day of violence, which they kind of reference in the thing. And I don't know whether that's maybe what they're kind of referring to. They're kind of taking Earth Crisis Firestorm as kind of kill all the drug dealers and changing it to, we need to eliminate all the people harming animals, which would be really cool. So guys, if you did that, legends. If I just read up too much into that, it's all good. It makes for a good story. But
I actually, I was going to say, and now I can't remember what song it's actually in, forgive me, but they say this is a motherfucking invitation. And I remember saying to you that sounded like a reference to Lamb of God. Now, I don't know if they are making just kind of a little reference to their inspirations, but that's a very famous line in a Lamb of God song. And I heard it immediately and I was like, ooh, wait. So there seems to be references to their own songs, to themselves, and possibly to other bands.
For sure. And it has to be said, the ending of Burn Your Local Butcher, the pig squeals towards the end.
They are
Like I said about comparing him to Will from Lorna Shore, I mean, like when you see, Dane, kind of just doing these horrific noises, you're just like, yeah, like he's on his way. Like, I want to see Dane in top deathcore vocalists of all time lists.
Yes.
By the end of the year.
We're saying it. We're saying it right now. Manifesting it into, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's chop into Vegan Day of Violence. Now, I don't know what you think, but this track really reminded me of early Bring Me the Horizon. It gives me really Pray for Plagues vibes.
Yes.
Like those guitar squeals, his highs, just the vibe of this song seemed really early Bring Me.
Now you said it, I can hear it, and I don't know if you agree with me, but I would say this is the most kind of graphic. Like they're all very graphic songs, but this one, because of how hard it's going, it's like
I'd say it's up there. I think there's one slightly layer which is also very graphic, but yes, I would definitely agree. I think it'd be interesting, to tell people kind of like the theme of this. So it's basically this day where it's just like you have a choice. You're either vegan or you're the victim. Is basically, so the lyrics are like animal liberation, human extinction, reverse the slaughter, either vegan or victim. So it's kind of like that call is like, now it's your time. You need to make a decision or you're done for, basically.
Yeah, and the lyrics that go before that are, you eat shit, you eat meat, you eat shit, maggots crawl above you, you don't care, we'll make you, new extreme, you for the next 24 hours, justified mass murder. So it's like, what is that, The Purge? But
yeah, it's literally like The Purge. And again, it kind of references back, which is why I think maybe that Firestorm reference was there. The Firestorm Earth Crisis song was the purge of the drug dealers. And this is the purge of the animal abusers. So
there is another theme that they talk about bloodhounds. I don't know if you know if that's a reference.
No, I was trying to work out what that would be. I don't know whether that's a reference to like the hunt at all or anything like that, or yeah, I'm not entirely sure there. But yeah, from this track, where this Vegan Day of Violence, where kind of this purge massacre has happened, we go into a completely different vibe with the next track, Gas Chamber PT. I haven't worked out what the PT stands for as yet.
Me neither.
I need to get a copy of the album, but we can't order it until like October over here, which is annoying.
Yeah, and this song really, as Chris said, is a different vibe, and I think it was quite pinnacle because it's about gas chambers, like we're assuming from the title, and I think it gives you a moment to breathe because you don't really have too much space to breathe in deathcore. So you've got that moment, and I think it really hones in, for me at least, it gave me a moment to think, this is why they're so angry. And obviously you already understand that as a vegan, but I can imagine as someone who isn't, just listening to this and just giving that emotive feel of just having a moment to actually think about the victims, which I think they didn't need to do in this album really. So it could have just been deathcore through and through, but they've given a minute for this opportunity, and I think it just hones in for me that this is an activism album as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things this track was almost like listening to like a news report, just as like the apocalypse had hit or something. It kind of get that kind of vibes, but it also kind of gave you that feeling that which kind of inspired the rest of the tracks before it. That kind of helplessness. It's kind of like the song has a lot of space, like you said, a lot of time to feel emotions, and you do kind of almost feel that kind of like what can I do kind of thing, obviously all the songs have said we're going to kill everybody, but kind of like in a real sense, one thing we do have as activists is that kind of pit of despair of kind of like everything's shit and what can we do about it, and the kind of the vibe of this song really makes you kind of just think about things like you said. It makes you kind of realize the severity. It kind of brings that kind of hopelessness. And yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, the album kind of really spoke to me. And I think this track was one of the times where I kind of really realized that, because it gave you that chance to think. I think it was really important, really awesome that they kind of included that. I think it was very well thought out to kind of have that moment of reflection kind of thing and be like, damn, everything is shit, and kind of, yeah. And then I guess the next track's kind of like, right, yeah, everything's shit. Let's pick it up a level. Go again. So the next track, Made in Oz, I'm guessing is a reference to Made in Australia, which is where the band are from. I'm guessing this may be insinuating, and I'm not entirely sure. I was trying to kind of translate what the last tracks were saying. The beginning I felt was kind of more easy to kind of translate, and then when I got here, I was trying to work it out. I don't know whether it was maybe saying that what has happened before was maybe based in Australia. I know they had the track on one of the earlier albums, Holocaust Australia, which was a call out of their own country for their massacre of animals, because it's almost like picking up that pace again. It's almost like there's still survivors kind of thing, because it almost indicates like finding people and cutting out their tongues, doesn't it? So it's almost like people aren't dead yet kind of thing. That there's people, that there's survivors, and maybe that this was all based in kind of one area, maybe like Australia. We've just purged Australia, and now we're kind of like taking that to a bigger thing. I mean, what did you kind of get from that? Was it kind of similar vibe, or?
Yeah, so for me, I just, you're having listened to Gas Chamber PT, you're getting a vibe of, okay, why this is like so important. And this could have been an EP, essentially, or a smaller album. And with the title, I expected maybe them to move on to a different subject. But what it did for me was, it was like, no, by the way, it was still talking about the animals. It's like, so I kind of gave that feel to me, because they say, everyone rotting and undead, good people do evil things, them, forget them, killing in the name of it's getting old, so you do as you're told. And it's just kind of like, it reiterates that there is zero tolerance, and this is so important, and that they've given up on any idea of, good people are doing good things. No, off. Like, this is really important, and this is what we want to do. And for me, the rest of the album is more detailed descriptions of what would happen hypothetically to people for this vengeance for animals.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that seems like the natural thing. I mean, obviously, when you go into the track 8416, which I'll say is probably one of the best tracks on the album. I don't know if you agree. I think it's incredible. And Sophie Wiltshire, the kind of guest vocalist there, from what I know, she's not even, I mean, I can't see that she's a musician. She seems like she's just another activist, which is awesome. I love the fact they've just got like another actress who seems, like she's really, really involved on there, and she's got a beautiful voice, which really,
Yes.
really adds to that track hugely. But yeah, like you were saying before about Vegan Day of Violence was kind of most graphic. This was also another very graphic one. It's like, and it references that kind of thing what you were saying a minute ago, like, we tried it your way, it got us nowhere. So it's kind of like, listen, actually it kind of, this track kind of gave me the impression of, when you get non-vegans being like, oh, you shouldn't advocate like that, you should do it like this,
Yes.
kind of thing, like they know it. It almost felt like the frustration at that, like it was almost like, oh, but if no one's going to listen to you if you do this, no one's going to listen to you if you do that, and it's almost like, well, we've tried it your way and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So
Have
sorry,
you listened to us? Yeah.
sorry, now you got a massacre on your hands and you've got to deal with it. It kind of felt like that. And then you've got that kind of, that kind of gory kind of violence, flesh eaters to the saw, breastfeeders to the morgue, cut out my f***ing tongue, shut me the
Mm-hmm. I got the vibe from that it was like, kind of like, oh, they can't help it. they can't help themselves. They're in pain themselves. So it's kind of like it gave a moment for empathy. It gave a moment for the activists to speak. And the rest of it is kind of like, despite all that, you can't help it. Like, you've got to be the victim now because you've victimized so many. That is kind of the vibe that I got. And you said that this is one of the best tracks on the album. And I do have to agree, on an emotional level, like, it really got to me because it was like a little space for the activists to share their frustration as well. And her voice, is beautiful. It's ethereal. It's really enjoyable, and it really emotively affects you. But yeah, that's the kind of vibe I got from the vocals that she had on this track. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think as well, instrumentally, this song takes a really long time to build up, which gives there room for you to really hear his vocals. And I think that's what makes it more terrifying. You realize the power behind him as a vocalist is just immense. And, as you say, he's like up there with one of the best vocalists, and he should be. But, like, trying not to put my vegan bias into it, but it is fantastic. And yeah, the slow build up really gives it space to be quite a terrifying song. And yeah, it's got this really military feel. It's got these like beeps at the start of the song that have a military vibe. So there's these other like effects that are coming in and it's also because it is quite slow build up, it really conveyed to me that this was the message that they really wanted you to take home. Like, they want you to hear this. This is kind of like their ode, or the words that they want to convey. And yeah, that's what I get from this one, that it's their most brutal in a very, like, they're letting the music do the brutality rather than the lyrics, even though they are. And there's a bit that they say, you say you'd kill for your beliefs, but I bet you wouldn't. Aim the sharp end of the obscene cruelty, forcing transparency. It's like they're still trying to argue with the non-vegans. Because, it's people saying, oh, yeah, I'd kill an animal. And it's like, no, you wouldn't. So it's like they're still trying to bargain and reason with the non-vegans, which, as we should say, because it's deathcore, it's this kind of violent ideation. You meet these people in real life, they're puppies. They are the softest people you will meet. They obviously don't want to do anything actually bad. So they're still trying to, through the vocals, have an argument rather than like actually make instructions to convey terrorism or anything like that. So I think you get that here as well. They're trying to, debate
Yeah.
the non-vegan audience in a way.
I'm wondering as well, which is something that's just twigged to me, like we were saying about this was almost like the, like the war room kind of thing. It came to my head, like, this is their declaration of war. There's actually a very controversial book in the animal rights movement called A Declaration of War, Killing People to Save Animals and the Environment, by an anonymous author called Screaming Wolf. If anyone wants like a full rundown of this, Carlism Debunked actually did a review of this book. And I'm just wondering whether this has been a part of their inspiration as such. Obviously not taking it too literally, but in the fact that, it is like a rally call. It is a calling to war. It is talking about, killing people to save animals as an album, and whether this book was maybe some of the inspiration behind that. And I mean, I guess not that, but just kind of in general, because it isn't just this album that kind of covers this subject when it comes to the Grave. It's kind of been a consistent theme throughout their discography. But yeah, it just came to mind, and I just wondered whether, maybe that was some sort of inspiration for the themes and everything, and whether it was kind of like, this extreme book, whether things had gone so far that it was almost like this was our last resort. It was the declaration of war that we needed to ultimately save the animals and save the planet. So I don't know. I just thought I'd chuck that in there because it just popped in my head anyway.
That could be a possibility. Yeah,
actually, I do also want to give a shout, because I know we've spoke about Dane's vocals a lot through this, but I do actually just want to recognize just the band as a whole.
Yes.
Like, this album, just instrumentally, is incredible. Like, their drummer is an absolute beast. Like, it's just so incredible. Like, everything, the bass, the guitar, the vocals, Dane is one part of this package.
Yes.
And I think credit does need to be given to every member of the band for putting this together, and you can really see their influences in there. Matt, as well as playing bass, obviously produced the album as well, and obviously they've got a new guitarist in, which obviously you can hear that influence that he's brought in as well, which has kind of really mixed it up. So I just wanted to give credit to everyone before we kind of wrap up into the last track.
That's a good segue to the last track, because Dead Wrong, I think that's where the guitar really gets a chance to shine, like more than any other of the tracks. Like, you get kind of a guitar solo that's
exactly,
sick. It is brilliant. And you see just to exit, to have a final song this strong, just really puts together the strength of this album. Yeah,
the song's called Dead Wrong, because we should probably mention
Dead
that.
Wrong.
which features Michael, I hope I say his name right, Michael Kearney. I believe he's of the band Empty Cages, which I guess is another animal liberation band, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got 2 features in this. So it's like they've come together and done like what some artists don't really successfully do, which is tie up an album strongly. And with Dead Wrong, again, you might think, oh, this hasn't got anything to do with animal rights because of the title, but no, it's like, you're dead wrong. If you got the lyrics handy.
Well, it literally says, mistake of a creation, your flesh obsession no more, thought we'd stop at liberation, where they were dead wrong.
Yeah. So it's really a reiteration of everything that's been, all the themes that have been going through the album, but it's like they've got backup to kind of reiterate it further. It's like, we are, not just a band, but there are other people who think like us, who think that you are like, the animals need revenge, like they deserve revenge. Actually,
there's one thing I love about this as well, which I don't know, are you a fan of Upon a Burning Body?
No, I've not heard of Upon a
Oh,
Burning.
okay, so there's that bit that's kind of like, that's right, motherfucker, empty cages to the grave.
So
That is,
powerful.
that gives me intermission Upon a Burning Body vibes so much, because there's a bit in there which is kind of similar. That kind of person, kind of like, just kind of like saying it. I can't remember exactly what he says, but anyone who knows that song will know exactly what I'm saying. And that kind of got me pumped, because I was like, yeah, I love Upon a Burning Body. So I was like, that's such a good, yeah, I don't know whether they did that intentionally or anything, but yeah, definitely added it to me.
I'm gonna
And
listen
yeah,
to
like you
this.
said, that guitar solo in there was, a real kind of welcome kind of break as well. We haven't really got to see that side of the, of the guitar work on the album, so it was kind of like a really kind of good way to kind of end the album, I think. And
It's like, by the way, we are sick. By the way, we are absolutely
yeah,
amazing.
by the way, I can shred. Like, check this out before I go, kind of, kind of
Yeah, and
thing.
they've
Yeah.
been using Dead Wrong as they've been using it quite promotionally. I think it's because obviously if you were to like promote, I don't know, Vegan Day of Violence, it probably wouldn't kind of hit as well. But Dead Wrong is this kind of like, I'd say a gateway of
Yeah.
like, by the way, check out our lyrics.
Well, it's got that very like the second verse is very kind of straight up hardcore kind of thing. It's kind of like you can just imagine, yeah, just everyone like two step in the pit and everything, and it's got that very kind of good feel about it. And I think, yeah, I can see why they're using it, because it's got that kind of mainstream kind of appeal. And I think that's kind of what they've done really well with this album, because it's it's a deathcore album, but it's, you can tell, like we said, it isn't like that wall of sound deathcore that they would have on some of the songs on the previous albums. It's opened it up a bit and brought more of that hardcore influence and stuff, which obviously is, with bands like Knocked Loose and all stuff like that at the moment, is obviously getting a lot of traction. So I think it was a good move for them to kind of keep that deathcore vibe, but bring them into that world a little bit more, so they can reach more people and be more accepted, because obviously they deeply care about this cause and they want to reach as many people as possible, and obviously they want to be successful as a band as well. So I think, yeah, kind of that switch up that they've done with this album is only going to kind of benefit them. And like I said, the thing is excited me about To the Grave, and especially this album, is I can see the fan base growing. I can see the appeal of the songs to people that aren't vegan, that people have nothing to do with animal rights. They're going to listen to these songs and be like, damn, that's just epic. Like, that's brutal. I need to listen to this. This is awesome. And then they're going to end up, what everyone does, start deep diving into the band, reading what they're about
Like you
and
did.
everything. And it's that perfect gateway for people to start learning about animal rights, learning about animal liberation, finding out what's going on, questioning their own beliefs and stuff, and seeing the band kind of be like, yeah, you're wrong, you need to sort your shit out, in a very kind of blunt and to the point way, which is, which has historically worked in music. If we look at the most impactful music genres as far as pushing animal liberation, it's always been the punk and the metal genres. It's always been there. You've had your anarcho punk back in the 80s going into your crust punk, going into the more death metal, Napalm Death, Carcass, Cow Decapitation, Agathocles, all these kind of bands, were playing extreme music, but extreme music goes part and parcel with the extremes of the world, and people that tend to be into that are kind of open to listening to these things. They're not the person who's going to turn away from a gory video kind of thing. They're the person who's going to confront it. And I think, it successfully pushed animal rights forward. And I think, we've had, I would say, a bit of a lack of that in music over the past maybe like 10 years or so. It seems to have kind of died out, and I've been waiting for that new kind of boost of energy, like a genre to start embracing animal rights again and push it forward. And it does really seem that what To the Grave are doing could be that. And I'm really hoping that they just keep, getting better and better, more people getting interested, and seeing this animal rights movement grow out of this scene would be incredible. There's so much potential there. And like I said, because I've researched this and I've seen it happen, It gets me excited because there's no reason it couldn't happen again. So yeah, no pressure, guys. But
No
I'm expecting
pressure.
you to start an entire movement off of.
I mean, yeah, we were both inspired by music to go vegan. That's both part of our story. So it's like an anecdotally speaking, music has that space. And I think what you were saying, like these guys have the potential to go far. I think off this album they could go really far because there is a distinctive identity. I can't replicate the sound, but there's this where they go down, 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 and it sounds. I'm like, that's a To the Grave. That's To the Grave. I can hear their distinctive sound, like someone like Knocked Loose, like you mentioned. Their vocals are very distinctive, and Dane's vocals are very distinctive as well, especially those pig squeals. You're listening to him when you hear that pig squeal. So a band that has that identity, they are standing out from the rest, has that potential to shine. And yeah, this genre gives people the space to just kind of be like, it's not shocked, but you are in that gore, you are in that world of just horribleness. So it's like you can look here and your defenses are kind of gone because you're like, yeah, everything's shit, people are shit, yeah, you're shit. So you've got that space to be like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe we are doing something that's just completely messed up. So it does have that space, and as Chris said, it is this gateway for people to learn more, and they're not going to shy away from the dominions, the earthlings, the things where we see the true graphic nature. And it's to say that just because someone enjoys this music and the gore of it, it's not like they're going to enjoy the like actual real gore, as we've seen throughout this album. They are still trying to reason. It's not actually like, oh, we love the horror that's happening. It's trying to show how graphic and horrible this is. So yeah, I'm really excited to see them live. And I just want to appreciate anyone who's kind of watched up to this point, especially if you aren't into this genre, because this is a genre that's very dear to my heart. It's catharsis, and to have an album that's catharsis for vegans, even though that might not have been the actual purpose, because the primary purpose is like for the animals. Yeah, like it's got a fire in my belly, and I really think that even if you're not into this genre, it might be a bit shocking to try and take it in. This is a very clean album in comparison to other ones that you'll hear. There's moments in deathcore where even I can find it a bit overwhelming, where it's just like, and they do that, but they bring it back and they slow it down. There's really good pacing in this, like, so if you want to be introduced to deathcore, I'd actually say that this is probably a really good album to do that with.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. Because like I said, it's unlike their previous stuff, and unlike a majority of deathcore, to be honest, it can be like that wall of sound. It's just like, it's so intense, but this does open it up a little bit more to be that little bit more accessible. So I think, yeah, it's a really gateway. And even if you're not reading the lyrics or anything, just the grooves and the riffs and everything are just like, you can't help but just be like, this
Tasty.
is sick. Like,
Bon appetito.
Yeah. You'll be doing the face when you'll be like, oh, yes, that's the moment, kind of thing. Well, one thing I wanted to check out there as well, which I think, and it just sounds like we're just, just bigging up the bank, and we're completely biased, but I'm just saying it, some kind of factual things as well. Like, one thing I think has been really exciting to see is where some vegan animal rights music, it can tend to just stay within the vegan bubble as such. Like, they end up playing just at vegan festivals and stuff like this. To the Grave they're not doing that. They're not just playing with other animal liberation kind of focused bands or anything. They're actually playing with other well-known deathcore bands and putting themselves out in front of non-vegan audiences all the time, which is hard to do, because sometimes if you niche down too much, and you become too much of one subject and stuff, you just don't get on these kind of tours and these opportunities, because you're not seen as a part of that kind of scene, and that can happen. Like, there are a lot, like I said, there's a lot of acts that sing songs about animal liberation, but you don't really see them ever performing at any kind of just general music things. It'll only be at like a vegan camp out or a veg fest or something like that. But yeah, I mean, like, they're touring with, like Signs of the Swarm, people like that who are like really well known. Who is it? They did some really good shows in Australia, didn't they? With quite a big band. I can't remember who it was now.
I can't remember who it
I,
was,
I
but
can't
yeah,
remember.
on this the tour that they're supposed to be touring with Veil of Maya, but they've pulled out. But I think Veil of Maya are actually vegan. They do have a song called Synthwave Vegan, but they don't sing about veganism. So they seem
Yeah,
to
I've been
make
trying to
little.
work out whether they are or not. I haven't seen anything.
I was kind of curious when I saw the title. I was kind of like, why would you call it that if you're not like? And when I saw that To the Grave were touring with Veil of Maya, who have now pulled out, they've gone on hiatus. I was just like, but yeah, they're not. It's not like Veil of Maya. It's not like Signs of the Swarm, from my understanding, or Varials, who are going to be playing with them. It's not as if they talk about veganism, or if they do so very euphemistically and through metaphors. So yeah, they are making it, it's very like that kind of like hardcore punk, even though they stay in the niche of like acting like I've come here and I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's just been great to see them not getting that much backlash. You get the odd trolls and stuff, but it's people are kind of just really getting into the music, and I think once they're into the music, it's hard to kind of hate the band for their views,
It's
right,
like,
in that way.
good.
Because they're kind of like, shit, they're too good. I can't hate them. This is really awkward. I need to keep listening to them, and they keep just telling me to be vegan. Fuck. What do I do?
It kind of makes you think, like, say for example with like Billie Eilish. Loads of people love Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish is plant-based or vegan. I'm not kind of sure. Her journey, but people really like her, so when she makes the little comments that she makes, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you're Billie Eilish, you're Billie Eilish, I did it again, you're Billie Eilish, so we love you. But in the space of deathcore, it's like killing spree, and it's like, this is the space to actually just, it's like a therapy session. Like, people say it, but this music to me is like quite therapeutic, even though it's just I find it like a little therapy session, because it's like a rage room. You can just have that space to just be really angry, and I think in that space people can kind of say what they want, and it's like, oh, that's okay, you're mad right now.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I just definitely encourage people to go check out the album. See, we'd love to know what you think as an activist, or if you're a non-vegan watching, kind of what you think to it. Read the lyrics, tell us your thoughts. I'm definitely interested in that.
Definitely listen to it. Listen to it while watching reading the lyrics.
While reading the lyrics. Yeah, and then I'd definitely recommend everyone please go out and support the band as well. I mean, as well as obviously doing the album about animal rights, they also support a lot of animal rights during their shows and stuff, in the way that they work with different organizations to try and raise money and stuff from like merch profits and stuff like that, which is great. They collaborate with kind of like whether it's a hunt group. I know they did something with We the Free in Australia at one point, so they're actually kind of getting involved in that activism community and want to give back to it as well, which I think is amazing that they're doing that. So I'm not sure when this video is going out, but they're currently touring in the US, so you can check out the dates there. They're coming to the UK in October, and they'll be going all around Europe on the Faces of Death tour. So there's loads of chance to kind of catch them at the moment. So yeah, I just kind of encourage you to check them out and support them. It's really awesome to see a band being so upfront with animal rights. It's needed. Music's such a powerful platform, which is why I've been kind of making my film, which is why I get excited about this stuff. It's such a if it wasn't for music, I wouldn't be vegan. Like,
Same.
Yeah.
Probably not. And yeah, I want to appreciate anyone who has watched this and has been patient with me, because I'm not a music reviewer. I'm just someone who really enjoys this band. And I think to have it in this space and to be so unapologetic, and as Chris said, we should definitely be supporting them, because they are putting themselves out there in a very unapologetic way and actually supporting causes. So they're bringing, the power of music together with direct action and outreach and all these other things. So yeah, I think actually, as a way to end this, we should plug your upcoming documentary, just as a thank
we can
you.
talk about it. So if you're a regular watcher, you're kind of kind of heard me say about this about a million times, but if anyone knew. So I'm making a documentary about the interconnection between animal rights and music, basically diving into the whole history of how music and animal rights have worked together to progress the cause, going all the way back into, starting off in like the 1800s, all the way to modern day, through all the different kind of animal rights movements. There's a lot of them have had a very strong kind of music backing, and there are arguments to be made that maybe animal rights wouldn't be where it was, where it is today, if it wasn't for the music world. So that is getting very close to completion on editing now, which is very, very exciting to be able to say for once. We have a watchable version of the entire film. So it is 100% coming. We're just trying to make it better, basically. It's there, but we just want to improve it, polishing currently. Very, very, very exciting. So I would expect a release date for next year now. I mean, we still got to do legal and all that kind of stuff, even when it's done. We will be doing some previews and stuff once we have kind of got it done anyway. So please, if you want to keep up to date with the film, you can follow us on Instagram at Taking Note Film, same on Facebook, I believe. And just stick around for updates and just know it's coming. And To the Grave are a part of the film as well. We interviewed those guys. So.
Oh yes. I'm so ready for this film. I'm sorry. I'm sure you have number one fans, but I'm one of the number one fans.
So you'll be getting an early viewing as soon as it's ready to go. So.
VIP. All right, thank you so much for watching this. If you reach the end, then say like a salad bowl down below, so that we know that you've reached the end. And let us know what you think of the album, because we've sat here for
everyone's
ages
a murderer.
Everyone's a murderer. Thank you.